Good afternoon, fourth grade. We're going to continue reading chapter 3 today. Before we get started reading chapter 3, I want you to think back to what we've been talking about the last 2 days and turn to your quick write. How has Carter's perspective of himself changed since walking through the Hall of Ages? Yesterday we talked about how he began to identify with his Egyptian heritage. And he began to care more about the fact that he came from a line of Egyptian magicians because all of those stories his dad told him, became real to him. So press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the vocabulary. Today we're going to focus on Sadie and how her trip through the Hall of Ages changes her perspective about humans hosting gods. This perspective question is something that we really need to work on today before we take our quiz. And another word for perspective is also opinion. And so before we answer this question, we need to think, what does Sadie think about humans hosting gods? And does that opinion change based on her experience in the Hall of Ages? All right, our vocabulary today, the first word is estranged. That's when you're no longer close to someone. You were friends, but now you're not, so you're estranged. And this is an example of an estranged father. He's no longer with his family. The next example is vocabulary word is elude, and that's when you escape something. So it can be in terms of like an idea eludes you, like you forget, or it can be in terms of like this football player eluding the tackle. So he escaped the tackle. And then the last one is quarrel. That is just an argument between two people or a fight. All right, we're going to start reading on page 68, and we're going to continue through page 72. So let me make sure I'm on page 68. Here we go. Okay. So if we back up just a little bit, Desjardins, at the end of our lesson yesterday, Desjardins wanted to kill Sadie and Carter for consorting with the gods. But Iskandar, the chief lector, said, no, we'll test them. And so Zia is going to test Sadie and Carter in the morning and with their magic. And if they fail the test, they'll die. And so they really need to pass. And so right now they're in Egypt, and she takes them to their room. And we see Sadie's thoughts. So at the top of page 68, she says, it would have been hard enough to sleep with Zia's comments about passing our tests or dying, but the girls' dormitory wasn't as posh as Amos's mansion. I stared into the dark until I could hear the other girls, inmates as Zia called them, snoring. Finally, I crept out of bed and tucked on my boots. After a few wrong turns, I found my way back to the Hall of Ages. What was I up to, you may ask? I certainly didn't want to meet Monster Evil again or that creepy Lord Salamander. But I did want to see those images, memories, Zia had called them. Zia had warned that the scenes would melt my brain, but I had a feeling she was just trying to scare me off. I felt a connection with those images, like there was an answer within, a vital piece of information I needed. I wanted another look at the age of the gods. A single leap, and I was there. So we'll stop right there. We want to think about our character, Sadie. Who is she, and what is she like? And we know that Sadie, went back to the Hall of Ages because she was curious, or she felt a connection to one of the memories and the age of the gods. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for a quote. And this thought right here in the middle of page 68, where she's leaping into the picture, is a good quote that supports our answer for who she is and what she's like. Okay, she's curious. All right, and then now as we are in the bottom frame, I want you to pay attention to the setting. It says, in the palace of the gods. So we know Sadie, when she was in the Hall of Ages, she leaped into a picture, and now she's in the palace of the gods. And we're going to get some more information about the setting before we write it down. Top of page 69. And we see what looks like a pharaoh and his queen, and she's pregnant. And he's saying, "Thank you, Isis, my love. Tomorrow we shall mark the rebirth of our son Horus, the Great One. His new incarnation shall bring peace and prosperity to the world." Okay, and so we know that Osiris died and he's king of, or god of the afterlife, and this must have been before that. And so this must be Osiris and Isis, and they are celebrating what will be the birth of their son Horus. And so when it asks us to describe the setting, you can say, Sadie was in the Hall of Ages, but she leaped into a picture or a memory and is now in the palace of the gods. Yep, she's now in the palace of the gods with Osiris and Isis. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And for the quote, you can write down the quote from this box and this one too, where it says, "My Lord Osiris, happy birthday." All right? And now we're looking for Sadie's problem. So we're in the middle of page 69. The air felt festive until the palace doors blew open with a gust of hot desert wind. And we can see this red figure, and we can make an inference that this is probably Set. "Set, why have you come?" "Brother Osiris, are we so estranged that I cannot celebrate your birthday? And I bring entertainment." And you can see he has that classic box for Osiris. On the next page, he says, "This sleeping casket was made by my best craftsman, the God who lies within. Even for a night will see his powers increase tenfold. It is a gift for the one and only God who fits within it perfectly. Osiris, my brother, would you try it first?" "My lord, do not. Set does not bring presents. It is only a game." My heart began to race. It was the same box Set had used to imprison my dad at the British Museum. "No," I wanted to scream. "Don't trust him." But Osiris lay down and the coffin fit him exactly. A cheer went up from the gods. "It's a perfect fit! All hail Osiris!" Before Osiris could rise, Set clapped his hands. A golden lid materialized above the box and slammed down on top of it. "Villain! Today I am king, lovely Isis." All right. And so Sadie has witnessed the trick that Set played on Osiris. The details are a little different than the details that we read about a couple of weeks ago, but it is the same story. It's just a different version of the same story. Okay, and Sadie was there to witness all of it. Top of page 70. "And your child shall never be born." "Husband, no." So this must be Nebehet or Nephthys. A woman in blue knocked off Set's aim. Isis flew into a bird and flew away. Foolish wife, whose side are you on? I'll deal with you later, Nephthys. My prey eludes me. Set sprouted demon's wings and launched himself in pursuit of Isis. Okay? And so in our problem, we can include we don't want to include the fact that Set put Osiris in the coffin, because that isn't necessarily about Sadie. We want to keep reading and see what her involvement in this situation is. So turn the page. What is Sadie's problem? And in this frame, we can see Sadie's face on one side in a bird, and we can see Isis's side on another with a bird, and we can see Set reaching out for both of them, and then this old man's hand right here reaching out up here. And so Sadie is thinking, then suddenly I was the bird. I was Isis, flying desperately over the Nile. I could sense Set behind me, closing. And then Isis is saying to Sadie, Sadie, you must escape. Avenge Osiris, crown Horus king. Okay? And so this is Sadie's problem. Sadie's problem isn't about Osiris. It's that she turned into Isis in the middle of this experience, and Set was coming after her. Okay, so silently write your problem down in 3A. And your quote should be this thought at the top of page 70. All right. And then now we're looking for the solution. And in the middle frame, we realize that old man's hand was Iskandar. And he pulls her out and he says, Huff, forgive the interruption, but you were almost dead. Your Ba left your body and entered the past. Haven't you been warned? You speak perfect English? I speak many languages. I prefer my birth tongue, Alexandrian Greek. You saw a very old event, Sadie, Set taking the throne of Egypt by force. He hid Osiris's coffin, and Isis searched the entire world to find it. And how'd that go? Osiris was resurrected, but only in the underworld as king of the dead. Their son Horus challenged Set when he grew up, prevailing after many hard battles. That is why Horus is called the Avenger. All right? And so we know that Iskandar rescued Sadie from her Ba experience in the past. Okay, write that down for 4A. And then you can write this quote about how he says, forgive me, I was almost dead. You were almost dead, for 4B. And then I'm going to read the rest of the conversation, and I want you to think, how does this experience affect Sadie? You know, one, she learned about Osiris and Isis and why Set is mad at them, right? But her conversation with Iskandar reveals even more. And we are going to read that in the whole group. Okay?